Dr. Lavlina Madam, Dean, College Development Council in charge of Bharathiar University, respected Dr. Sandhya Madam, Principal CMS College of Science and Commerce. It's a great privilege to have both of you today as our resource person addressing our college faculty members, which is spread across Tamil Nadu. We have got today registration from Madurai, Salem. I saw some few registrations from Chennai also. Still coming in and participating. It's a initiative started by ASFASM and PWC, Principal Welfare Cell. As the Vice Chancellor of our Honorable Vice Chancellor of Bharathiar University has said yesterday, the intention of this is to bring in better networking among our colleagues and also to share knowledge which we have with us. As you all know, our principals are all greatly qualified. They have abundance of knowledge in them and also wisdom in them. So this made the association think of conducting a program like this so that the faculty members across the colleges would be able to get more information and also better knowledge. I welcome both the resource persons for this session. I would just start with 2 or 3 things. First, I would like to introduce our Dean CDC. As you are the faculty members and the principals of this Bharathiar University would be all knowing Lavlina Madam. She is a great researcher and she is also the professor and head of the social work department. She is one of the senior most faculty members in Bharathiar University who has written many publications and also visited many countries. She has got crores worth of projects to Bharathiar University from various agencies. Welcome you, madam. I would also welcome Dr. Sandhya Menon, the principal of CMS College of Science and Commerce. She is not a new face to anyone. I think everyone knows Sandhya Madam very well. She is one of the senior most principals in Bharathiar University. I think if I am correct, she must be the first or second senior most principals in Bharathiar University. She was earlier working with CMS Institute of Management as a principal, and she is also the chief executive officer of CMS group of educational institutions. Basically, she is a management professor. So you know that a management professor generally will have a lot of knowledge and also a lot of case studies with them. So we have got a great personality with us to share her knowledge, her wisdom, and her experience among us. There will be a question and answer session where the faculty members can type their questions and we will put it across to the panelists for answering them. The most important thing is today we are going to have a feedback for every session. Yesterday, unfortunately, what happened was there were around 550 registration. But when you look at the people who attended the session was less than that. So I think that has happened because of some glitch in between. So today we have bought a feedback system. We will be sharing the feedback with the participants at the end of the session. The participants who fill the feedback form only will be getting the e-certificate. I would again like to re-emphasize that only the participants who are filling the feedback form and submitting the feedback form will only get the e-certificate. Merely attending the session or merely registering will not enable you to get the e-certificate. This feedback form will also help us to do better. As you all know, this PwC of our association plans to conduct this webinar session on a regular basis. So we would be able to know better what the faculties want from us and what the principals also want from us. I would, with this, not few words, with lot of words, I would welcome Dr. Lovelina Madam, the resource person, to start the session. Thank you, everyone. Have a good session. Sandhya Madam, can we start with your session so that by the time Madam can get it?
Okay, sir. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second day of this webinar sessions. And I must thank Ajit sir for those lovely words that you used for introducing me. Thank you, sir. It's made my day. My topic is Education 5.0, the new wave. We are all going through very challenging times today. The world is reeling under the distress triggered by COVID-19 pandemic. We are entering into a period of rapid change and uncertainty. And so we have to catalyze systematic change needed to adapt successfully to this dynamic environment. The education sector is also seeing a radical change in all aspects of its academic ecosystem. Thanks to the ambitious plans of our Honorable Prime Minister of Digital India, Skill India, remote learning through online mode has become so easy to adapt in these times. Before I touch upon the different aspects of my topic, let us understand what is the aim of education, in particular higher education. Of course, the aim of education is to create worthy citizens of the nation. Always educational aims are correlated with the ideals of life. Aim or the purpose of education is to mold students into productive citizens that use their knowledge, their talents, and their acquired skills to sustain themselves, not only themselves, but also help others while pushing the human race forward in the areas of equality, equity, and harmony. What is the aim of higher education in particular? Because we are all dealing with higher education. Higher education is aimed at generating knowledge and talent for the industry and for the society at large. Now, always industry and society have dictated what is to be taught in the classrooms. They are impacting as to how education has to be evolved. Thus, there exists a symbiotic relationship between education and industry and society. The environment in which education operates is therefore highly dynamic because of the rapid global and technological changes that are taking place as a result of the various industrial revolutions. So the education sector, in fact, if you see, was getting ready to adapt to and implement Education 4.0. And now, with the pandemic, the scenario is completely changing. Are we suddenly, it's what I feel, are we suddenly stepping into the fifth wave of industrial revolution? Yes, it seems so. And there's already discussions of Education 5.0. What is the fourth wave of education and how the different waves of education are related to industrial revolution? See, you must all be aware that the gap between the different industrial revolutions, that is the first to the second to the third to the fourth, kept reducing as the years progressed. For example, with a century gap between the first industrial revolution, what was the first industrial revolution? The invention of the steam engine in the late 1700s. Almost a century after that, the second industrial revolution happened. And what was that? The mass production in the early 1900s. The third industrial revolution came after almost 70 years after that, maybe in 1970. And what was that? The invention of the computers. The fourth industrial revolution started 30 years later, and this happened in the early 2000s. It made remote working and collaborations possible by connecting the computers. That is the internet era. Well, are you able to hear? I'm sure.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. So that was the internet era, the fourth industrial revolution. Well, we were expecting this fourth industrial revolution to peak only in 2025 or 2030. But thanks to COVID-19 pandemic, we seem to be entering into the fifth wave by 2020 itself. That is the next wave of industrial revolution in 2020 itself. Is it so? I put a question mark there. At this juncture, I must emphasize that education system has always adapted itself to these changes in the industrial world by following the industrial revolutions. From the Gurukula system in the ancient days to the traditional university or college education system of the early 1900s, to the distance learning or mass learning modes in the late 1900s, to the technology augmented learning experience of the early 2000s. 2000 is the fourth revolution, that's of the internet era, has always evolved with the needs of the industry and society. Preparing students to this dynamic industrial and societal environment has always been the biggest challenge of educationists. But before we could stabilize and adapt completely to Education 4.0, the next wave has started. The fourth wave of education was in the planning or policy formulation, to a certain extent in the implementation, some nook and corners. But it has now been accelerated to the implementation stage because of this pandemic. For the past several years, we have been having half-baked attempts for the transformation to the total digital mode. That is the fourth revolution. So for transformation to this, the total digital mode itself, but it was not being made because of our mindsets, not willing to accept this changeover completely. And today, what has happened? Today, we are forced to change and adapt, else perish by this smart, small virus called COVID-19. This new world order has caught, I think, most of us unawares, most of us perplexed and clueless. What is Education 5.0? That's my topic. Or how different is it from the previous education wave, the fourth wave of education? As I already mentioned, the fourth wave was to peak only by the early 2030s, and thereafter create the next fifth wave of revolution. But in fact, it is already happening because of the fifth wave of industrial revolution. Now, coming back to the question, what is Education 5.0? Education 5.0 is the fifth wave of educational revolution, which is only an extension of the fourth wave, but it is coupled with what? With values and future progressive thinking. It is a learning-centric ecosystem. This Education 5.0 is a learning-centric ecosystem that is sustainable, that is balanced and principled, driven by values, powered by intellect, and of course, afforded by new technologies. Now, because Education 5.0 is an extension of the fourth wave of education, let us try to understand what are the components of this Education 4.0. Education 4 was being shaped by innovations in the information and communication technology of the early 2000s. And students will have to be trained to be innovators. So innovation, if you see, was the latest mantra that was going around. This fourth wave in education was a necessity. It is a necessity that is born out of the fourth wave of industrial revolution, where machines are replacing almost all activities. If you see, everything is being, most of the activities are being replaced by machines. It's an era of what? It's an era of artificial intelligence. It's an era of robotics. It's an era of quantum computing, data analytics, etc., which are going to replace almost all basic level professions, processes, and also activities. Now, we already seen somebody has made, I think IIT or somebody has made a robot to replace a nurse in the hospital to look after the COVID-19 positive patients. So this is what is happening. You can actually replace all the basic level, if not the higher end level, but the basic level professions or processes or activities will get replaced. This new total technology-driven education is here to stay, my dear friends, for a long time into the future. So, as we educators, we grapple with the new ways of communicating with our students. We have to reflect on as to how students or how this disruptive crisis, actually this crisis, it can help us to define what learning should be there for the next Gen Z or Generation Alpha or beyond. So the new education wave is a response to seeing how humans plus technology, just see, humans plus machines or humans plus technology can be aligned to achieve the objective. But we must not forget, what we should not forget is that new technologies evolve at lightning speed. So let us see what happens in the new education wave or the components of this. Learning can take place anywhere at any time, because the conventional system of classroom learning will be replaced with online learning. So a student can sit anywhere. It is his choice. He can sit in his house, he can sit on the road, he can sit in a park, he can sit in a restaurant, anywhere, any place he can sit. He can also learn at any time according to his convenience. He can learn alone, he can learn with his friends. I mean, he's watching you, okay, but then he can do all this. So this is what is happening to the classroom learning getting converted to online learning. Second, the source of getting knowledge will not be restricted just to the teacher alone, or maybe to the library when he used to come. But students will now have access to different channels and sources of information. So you cannot say that what you are teaching in class only is correct. No, he is going to get umpteen number of sources of getting that information or knowledge that you were passing on to him earlier. Third, learning will become more personalized and self-paced. See, we as teachers always knew that a class of 30 or 40 students, 50 students or 60 students did not belong, or I mean, they did not have the same learning abilities. They could not learn at the same pace, but we had no choice. Did we have a choice? No. We had to finish our portions. We did the lesson plans. We prepared the lessons, went to the class and lectured, delivered. You understood? Good. Didn't understand? You have to ask us. Okay? I didn't have the power to know whether you're not understood or not. So you have to ask the teacher. If the student did not ask, fine. Okay? Maunam sammadam. So the silence was taken as good. They have understood. But in the online mode, what is happening is we will have to give different levels. Okay, the online mode, tougher tasks will be taken by students only after achieving a certain level of proficiency. So they have the lesser level, easier ones first, then go to the tougher and then to the toughest maybe. Fourth, students will decide how they want to learn, exposing themselves to more application-oriented learning modes. Okay, so they will now start. It's not that they can decide how they should learn. Fifth, this is the best thing. The conventional assessment system. What was the conventional assessment system doing? It was only trying to test the ability of the learner. Okay, test the ability of the learner for what? Ability of the learner to memorize or to remember and reproduce what he remembered in the answer sheets. We were valuing that. If you reproduce it verbatim, 100%, good marks. If you are not able to reproduce it correctly as the teacher taught you in class, marks reduce. Okay, so but what is happening today? Today, this conventional assessment system will be replaced by a more robust system of evaluation wherein students' creativity skills, students' ability to innovate and critical thinking ability, all these will have to be tested because this is what is wanted by the industry, and therefore the system, the assessment system will definitely change. So when such changes are taking place, it becomes imperative to develop and impart appropriate education to the current students, because the current students are going to be the future workforce. They are going to be the future professionals. They're going to be the future entrepreneurs. So if you do not provide the correct education, if they do not get it, then they will be a misfit in the industry and the society. How do we develop? How do we develop an appropriate educational system in such an environment? First, curriculum development. We all know that curriculum is the base, the foundation of any education system. For curriculum development, of course, we have board of studies, whether it is university system, whether it is autonomous system. We had created board of studies. We have many people on the board, mostly academicians, if I'm not wrong, most of them, 80% will be academics. A few, okay, because NAC is insisting, because UGC insisting, because universities, and we'll have a few industrialists on the board, maybe 1, 2 minority they are. We might have 1 or 2, okay, alumni. All these will be there, but are we listening to what they are telling? Because for us, resistance to change, okay? Some good institutions take in all this, they develop, they go into the next level, correct? But not all of us. Today, what is going to happen? The student is going to decide what he wants to learn. The student is going to decide what he wants, how he wants to learn that. He is going to decide where he wants to learn this. Therefore, student becomes an important stakeholder in curriculum development. We have no other choice, but he has to be included as a main stakeholder in the curriculum development. Next, second, content development. Okay, the curriculum is decided. We have all these people, they have decided what are the subjects for each program, everything is decided. Now, how this subject, what is the content going to be for each subject that the faculty is going to handle? Fast changing technology. This has been transforming, let me tell you, the learning experiences of students. We must understand that online education, I am telling again, we must understand that online education is not merely replacing classroom lecture notes or classroom PowerPoint presentations. Okay, all this, it is not just replacing all this with online documents, because students can access all this. They can access all these notes. They can access all your PowerPoint presentations from different sources. Now they're sitting at home. They have all the time. They can do all that. Okay. We must understand what the industry or society wants. Industry and society actually want graduates who are flexible, who are adequately skilled, and easily adaptable to the changing environment, because it is technology driven environment. So our subject content, it must concentrate on how to impart these skills. Next, pedagogy. Now, for the change in the methodology of delivery, now you're going, the methodology is completely changing. You're going into the online mode. New skill sets have to be mastered by the teachers. There is no other go. You have to, some of these, because otherwise your classes will not become interesting. In the classroom, what was happening was you had immediate response from the student. If it was not interesting, you could make out from how the expressions on his face. Today, you cannot do that. You're online. You're on the online mode. And we don't know whether the student will be listening to your lecture then, or he'll be listening to the lecture recorded one later on. So therefore, you must master the skills. Teachers have to master. Some of these skills are recording and editing audio clips, creating annotated, interactive and engaging videos and presentations, using social networking platforms, so that for better student engagement and so on and so forth. Now, next, fourth, this is very important. The structure of the education system is itself going to change. What is the structure? What is the conventional structure? The conventional education system that now we are having, maybe some places it has changed. I'm talking about India. India also, some places maybe slight changes are coming in. But more or less, you have UG program, you have PG program, you have research programs, say MPhil, PhD and all that. UG, all these programs are say in arts or in science, social sciences, management, commerce, and so on and so forth. Okay, all these are there. Now, these will be replaced by customizable degrees. What is this customizable degrees? Now, in the conventional UG program, what happens is if I'm taking BCom, now the student, BCom, the Board of Studies has set the curriculum, the subjects are all there. So I study all those subjects, 20 or 24 papers under BCom. Only if I clear all those papers, I get a BCom degree. But this is going to change. How? Through this customizable degrees. What is this? Here, a student does not have to select only one complete program of study. Instead, he has a choice. He can select modules, okay, from different programs. He can select modules from different universities. He can select modules from different colleges. Now this, what is the result? This will create more versatile, well-rounded students who can adapt themselves to different career options. And this is what the industry wants. This is what the society wants. A person who has a holistic development has taken place. The second change that is happening in the structure of the education system is that there is going to be lifelong learning instead of limited period learning. See, today what is happening, or in the conventional system, what is happening? We get into school, okay. Now, earlier, when we were young, we only got into school after completion of 5 years. We used to enjoy before all those first, up to 5 years, we used to enjoy at home. But today, what is happening? As the child is born itself, the booking is done. Even before the child is born, the booking is done in preschools, pre-LKG, pre-UKG, and whatnot. Anyway, after that, the child completes the schooling up to 12th, then goes on for a UG program if they are lucky. Further, if you're still lucky, you do a PG program or maybe progress into the research programs. And by the time all this education is over, you are, say, about 26 or 27. After that, learning stops. Okay, you are educated. Now you know everything. That is what goes into our head, and we stop learning. This is what has been happening. Some of us who are not very fortunate to do the program then, maybe a research program, maybe we would have got a PhD degree towards the later years. That is a different issue. But what I'm trying to say is that learning was to a limited period only. This is going to change. It is going to become lifelong learning. And why? Because of the over-dependence on technology. Today, the entire universe is technology-driven. And technology, which is old, becomes obsolete and thrown away. If you stick on to that technology, you will be pushed out. You will be left behind. The world will progress without you. And so, constant learning and updation is required for the students to progress further. So that is what I said. The structure of the educational system changes. Next. I've already touched upon this, the assessment and evaluation system, okay, from the earlier mugging up, memorizing, reproducing, getting marks. No, that is all going to go. Already we are seeing these changes where you have multiple choice questions, which is trying to really know whether you know, whether you are able to understand, whether you are able to apply. All these application and all these questions are coming. So there is going to be a change in the assessment. It is going to become more transparent. It is going to become more scientific. Next, leadership style. Academic leadership style is going for a toss. It is going to change. Already there is a lot of talk being made of agile leaders and all that. New forms of leadership styles are going to emerge in the education field. You have to be tech savvy. You have to be creativity driven. You'll have to have analytical skills. You will have to have cognitive thinking skills. You will have to have smart decision making, quick decision making. And also, another thing is that you have to be a constant learner. You can't say that I'm the principal, over. I have stopped my learning. I have stopped my education. No, I have to continue learning also, because I'm also I'm trying to produce students for this fast moving environment. Therefore, I should know what is happening in the environment. And for that, I have to be current. I have to keep learning and learning and learning. So such type of education leaders only will emerge. Having said all this, let us see what is the impact of this new wave going to be. First, the new educational wave will result in producing highly creative, I'm telling you again, they will be highly creative and innovative, data literate graduates with the ability to think critically and work, I'm stressing this point, to work in virtual groups. What are these virtual groups? You might be sitting at one place, the other members of your team may be sitting in some other place, but you are connected. You're connected. That is one. So virtual groups. Second, these virtual groups will not only consist of humans, they are going to consist sometimes of machines too. Robots also may be a part of your team. So this is what is going to be. So the new educational world will result in producing such people who can adjust to all this and work in such teams. Second, what is happening? The new way will affect all the domains of the individual, that is the cognitive or the affective or the psychomotor, everything it is going to affect. Third, new interdisciplinary, okay, there is a new combination of disciplines and programs, they are going to emerge. And all these programs, most of them will be interdisciplinary. It can also be collaborative programs between institutions and universities, because I already told you what the student can do. He is not going to get stuck to one particular program alone. So therefore, I was just imagining what all, it's all just, it's my imagination. I thought, you will have programs like biocriminology, maybe, I don't know, medical instrumentation, artificial intelligence in legal applications, etc., etc. So all these interdisciplinary or collaborative programs can emerge. Next. Oh, my God. What is the role of this poor teacher? Okay. All these years, in spite of all these revolutions, industrial revolutions that were taking place, the role of the teacher, it was an instructor trying to see that you are able to develop, to mold your students into better citizens as they leave the portals of the institution. Now, the role of the teacher will change from that of an instructor to a facilitator, What are they trying to facilitate? They are trying to facilitate, or they are trying to train the students to access. Okay, you have to train the students to access knowledge from different sources, information from different sources, make use of certain tools. So train them to use tools to analyze critically that knowledge which they have acquired from different sources, and also help them in taking smart decisions. So this becomes the role of the teacher. Next, student-centric learning. So it is moving from teacher-centric learning to student-centric learning by using technology with embedded values and principles. Learning is now taking the shift, and it is becoming more centered around the student because he decides everything. Thus, the present education wave, which is characterized by, again, I'm repeating, artificial intelligence, robotics, big data analytics, quantum computing, etc. All this is going to sweep, and this is what we have to be prepared. So the education system has to change and adapt fast to meet this situation, which is also triggered now quickly because of the COVID-19 environment. We have to keep pace. Whatever said and done, we have to keep pace with this changing environment. So, in conclusion, okay, what are we going to see? We are going to see that education is going to move away from campus to remote learning using online mode. We may think that it is only a change in content development, it is only a change in delivery pattern, or it is only a change in evaluation system. No, not at all. There was an emotional attachment that the teacher had with his or her students in the classroom teaching mode. This may vanish to a large extent, if not completely. We must not forget that what was the aim of campus education? You know, the previous traditional education, you had campus education, you also had the distance mode. But why did students come for campus education? I think one of the main reasons was that because in campus education, imparting of knowledge with character building was happening. Okay, so that is what is going to be absent. I don't know. People might argue otherwise, but I feel because that emotional attachment, is it going to continue? You know, in the campus environment, students from heterogeneous groups, okay, coming from different states, coming from different countries, speaking different languages, belonging to different economic strata, different cultural background. They learned all these, because of all these differences, they learned to empathize, they learned to sympathize, they learned how to, to adjust, with these heterogeneous groups, with their peers, or with the heterogeneous situations, learned how leadership styles evolved in the college campus. You would be seeing so many leadership styles evolve. Leaders are evolved in the campus. They also learned a lot of languages, because people were coming from different states, different countries. They learned different languages, the students, not only from the teachers, from their friends, from their classmates. They also learned a lot of skills, okay, from their friends and classmates also, other than the teacher. And they enjoyed life on campus. They got disciplined. Let me tell you, they got disciplined, and they also equipped themselves. No, they were equipped with themselves with the requisite values of life. All these may not be present in education 4.0. This is exactly why the fifth wave of education emphasizes on all aspects of the fourth wave, coupled with values and progressive thinking for the future. So education 5.0, or the fifth wave of, is not about, let me repeat, it is not about smart technology, or it is not about smart machines' capability to do what humans can do, but it is about what humans can do well, or what humans can do better, what humans can do extremely well with the help of smart technology and smart machines, coupled with values and life skills. We are yet to see the stage now. Lastly, I would like to conclude that as teachers, we should not forget our prime responsibility of shaping the future citizens of this nation, equipped appropriately to face the challenges of this dynamic and competitive world. Let us do this sincerely and purposefully. I thank the organizers for giving me this wonderful opportunity, and thank you all for your valuable time listening to me. I hope all of you are strictly adhering to the directions of the government by staying safe, by staying secure, and by staying healthy. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, madam. We will just open this session for the questions. After that, our patron of our association, Mr. Khalil, will say a few words, and thank you, madam. Before that, we'll just open we will just ask the participants to send their questions, type the questions so that we will be able to answer them. Thank you.
You can also mail me in case you're finding that time is running out.
No,
you can also mail me. I can answer them.
Questions we can take,
okay.
And then we can.
Fine.
It's open for the participants to send the questions. There is a question from Mr. Vasudevan Manoharan. For the past decade, if someone wants to grab a job, they only needed a degree or a diploma in a specific field. But
Yes.
nowadays, that is not enough to get a good job.
Yes.
Students now are required to have some certificate in addition to their degree, which is related to the job itself, respectively.
Yes.
So the needed certificates are emerging through online. Now my question, what will be the future of the universities and colleges if all the required certificate courses and degrees are got by the students through internet independently? That's the first question. The second question is from the same person. How much of a student is liberal towards choosing a favorite subject in his graduate degree, like the elective selection? What will be the difficulties in allowing the liberation of choosing the subjects for each program? This is asked by Mr. Vasudevan Manoharan.
Yeah.
I do not know which college he is from because he has not written that. I request all the people who are asking the questions to write the name of the college and also where they are working with. Thank you, everyone. I request Madam to answer this question.
Thank you for the two questions. I think most of the answer is there in your question itself. And I have already told that this is going to be the biggest challenge for the education system. Because now, when everything is going to go online, the student is being told that he can get information or knowledge from various sources. So that is going to happen. Now the skill sets, what are the skill sets required by industry? If we are able to incorporate all that into our system of education, definitely it will be good. So this is what we have to do. Then, how far is the certifications, that they are getting? How far it will be used by the industry, because it has to be approved. Okay, everybody, every Tom, Dick and Harry cannot keep conducting something and giving a certificate. That may not be accepted. So therefore, that will all come in. Now, once this opens up like this, there will be restrictions, there will be a lot of rules, regulations, which will all be placed at appropriate places to see that the student is able to move in the right direction. But what we as educators will have to do is that universities, colleges, autonomous colleges, we'll all have to see that we understand what the industry or society wants. We understand what is the revolution that is taking place in the external world, that is in the industry or in the society. Try to understand that, and then try to give the education which is suiting them. Because that is the aim of higher education, which I started with. The aim of higher education is basically that we are producing graduates who will become employable or who will be able to give jobs. Now, if both these things are has to happen, he has to be properly skilled. He has to have the requisite knowledge, whatever is required, not anything and everything. So this is going to be a big challenge. Definitely, it is going to be a big challenge.
Thank you, Madam. Another question is from Dr. Kalpana Ramesh. Do you think that the conventional system of education can take a drastic change or transformation immediately, or how much time it will require to change in your perspective?
Thank you, Madam Kalpana. This is $1 million question regarding the time it will take, because we never expected, as I told you, the next revolution itself was expected only by 2030s, if you see. But unfortunately, it has happened now. Now, this is something which nobody imagined. So we are not very sure as to how much time it will take to change over, but we have to change. We have to do it immediately. There is no other go. We have to, because I think we have to always be current with the environment. If we are not current, we are not updating ourselves with the current environment, the educational system itself, it goes for a toss. So therefore, we have to.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question asked by Dr. Geeta Raghupati, I think it is related to Dr. Lavlina, madam. I think this question we will ask in the next session. She has asked myself, Geeta from Erode Arts and Science, I have one doubt. you told students only choose what and how to study. Students can participate in board of studies. I think that Lovelina madam can answer. The next question is from Dr. Arundhati Palanisamy. She is the secretary of Kamadhenu College of Arts and Science at Erode. Her question is, IT giants like Google started hiring non-graduates where they look only into the skills. On the other side, online teaching portals like Udemy, Udacity are offering n number of courses. So how do you make a difference here on online teaching?
No, now I think educational institutions have to compete with all these online education providers also. So we are all going to compete. But then ultimately, we are only looking at what industry wants, definitely. Google is taking somebody with skills. They want only that. They want, see, I will buy things only what I want. I am not going to buy things which are offered. Now, that's what was happening all these years. We are going to a mall and buying all things. When we come home, we see that it's all junk. Same way, the industry also is not going to take simply somebody. They are going to assess if he is having the requisite skill because they have no time. Today, let me tell you, nobody has the time to train anyone. So they have to become industry ready as they come out. We might be competing with several other providers, definitely. That is going to be a big challenge again.
Thank you, madam. I think there are a lot of questions. I think there are nearly 70, 80 questions. As madam said, we will answer these questions individually to their mail ID so that we save a lot of time. Yes. And I would now request Mr. Khalil, the patron of ASFSM, to say a few words and thank our resource person, Dr. Sandhya madam. Over to Khalil, sir.
Good morning, everybody. Now I am at the stage to thank everyone who have taken participation in this webinar. Also, I would like to thank the Dr. Sandhya Menon madam, who has been the resource person for this webinar session. And I hope you all would have benefited out of this. I hope in the days to come, we will rectify the small technical things and see that it's all taken up very carefully. Thank you very much to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would request Mr. Rashid Ghazali, the Secretary of Nilagiri College of Arts and Science, Gudalur, to welcome our second resource person, Lovelina madam.
Respected Sandhya madam and the chair of the session, Dr. Ajit Kumar, and the beloved office bearers of ASFASM, and dear delegates. It's a great time. Actually, we got a memorable moment. We started yesterday having a series of webinars with the learned principles of our Bharatiya University. It is so happy to see that every session is giving an insightful information and very much inspiring insights by the learned principles of Bharatiya University. And today, I wanted to tell you that the session was so amazing, and it was actually enlightening us with the upcoming trend with 4.0, 4.0 and 5.0, and which will surely guide us, and especially the management and the faculties will be in such a mood that we have to open our eyes and we should see the opportunities and we should update and upgrade ourselves. That's the high time to make it possible. So, madam, you did really a fantastic job, and we are eager to listen to you more in future sessions. And now, I think we are all waiting for the session from a renowned official from Bharatiya University, Madam Lovelina, and she was in the initial time she was having some network issues. That's the reason we directly gone to the session. So we welcome, because the university support to ASFASM program, it's quite commendable, and include from the Vice Chancellor to the respective officials. They are really supporting the managements, campus, colleges, and organization in a larger way. So we thank you, ma'am, for your presence, and we wholeheartedly welcome you for your remarks in today's webinar. Thanking all of you for attending today's webinar session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Over to Lovelina madam.
Very good morning to everyone present here. Can you hear me, sir? All of you?
Yes, perfectly, madam. You can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. And at the outset, I have to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, for having appointed me as Dean in Charge, College Development Council. which is quite new to me. I'm just 15 days old in this particular office, and through that only I'm able to connect to you all through this webinar. And so I have to thank him wholeheartedly. And Madam's session was so wonderful, and Madam has given a very good platform for me to start my concepts and all other sharing other concepts and other aspects. Okay, so next let me thank our Dr. Ajit Kumar sir for having invited me to join this particular ASM. Thank you, sir, for inviting me to join in this session. Thank you very much. Okay. And as I already told you that this is 15 days of my being in the office of CDC, and what I have understood as a Dean of College Development Council of Bharathiar University is that this is going to be the backbone of all the affiliating institutions, colleges, and our Bharathiar University. And that is the backbone. Otherwise, I could say that this is going to be the connecting bridge. What I'm sharing now, all these are my viewpoints, which you all might know earlier itself, or through your experiences as administrators, college governing body members, secretaries. So you all would have been very much aware of the functioning of a CDC and everything. And me being new to this institution, I'm quite learning, and hope I'm on the right track. And if at all, if I am just derailing, you are free to correct me and put me in the right track too. So that open statement I'm just giving you to all our principals listening to this particular webinar series. And this particular office, for others' sake, I'm just explaining what I have learned, the role of CDC in the university. So what I have learned so far is that, as I said in a very broader term, that it is the connecting bridge between all the affiliating universities, affiliating colleges and the university. What we are here doing is that we take care of all the stakeholders of our higher education system, starting from the student, one who is getting inside the higher education after his schooling 12th standard, when he joins into a higher education system. For example, when he comes into a college to join his undergraduation. So right from the admission of any program in the UG, till he goes out of the higher education system, including post-graduation, MPhil, PhD, DLit or Doctorate of Science, DSc. So everything that comprises in this particular office. So not only to the student as faculty members or as principals of the college or administrators of the institutions, all their staff qualification approval, principals qualification approval, and everything is being taken care of this particular office. And again, not only the teachers or their qualification only, even their research part of it is also being taken care by this particular office. For example, if a person who's getting appointed in a college, if he or she wants to guide a MPhil student or a PhD student, what are the qualifications? What are the criteria it is there? What are the guidelines we are supposed to follow? Or is there any problems in that? Or even, for example, the student at the undergraduate level also, if they have any problem in selecting or choosing a paper, or in transferring from one college to another college, maybe due to some circumstances or anything, all that comprises of this particular office. The people are looking taking care of all these sections. And not only that, like only the student or faculty, even as I said, research is being taken care, and also the colleges, even if a group of people or somebody wants to start a new college, even that comes under this particular section, and they have to approach the university for getting affiliation. So all that comprises of CDC. And as Madam rightly pointed out, that I think all these would be known to you already. I'm just giving you a glimpse of what we are doing in the CDC. And the important task now which we are all facing, or which we are all given by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, as I earlier mentioned, that Madam has given a perfect platform for me to speak on. The same thing I'm repeating here. aligning with, so there is already, there is a circular which has come to you, probably you all would have been known to that Chancellor's Vision 2030. So that has been led by our Honorable Vice Chancellor when he has taken over as Vice Chancellor of Bharathiar University. Sir has been given an assignment that Chancellor's Vision 2030. That means aligning our education according to the needs of the industry due to this globalization and everything. So we are working for that. So as Madam said, Education 4.0 or Education 5.0. So that we are given as a task. So the major task in that alignment is that we have to update our curriculum. That is the first and foremost task which has been given. So this curriculum updation or curriculum revamping or whatever you call it as, that needs a very careful scrutiny and also very exhaustive working that will help us to have a very standard syllabus according to the needs of the industry. So only then our students would be employable and they would be joining immediately after their education to a job market. So that is the reason that the Herculean task which given by our Vice Chancellor to all of us is that we have to update our curriculum. So and here what we are planning is that this curriculum updation, many times our self-financing college principals used to say that our university syllabus and especially undergraduate syllabus is little less standard when compared to the autonomous colleges or any other university syllabus. So for that, what we have decided or what our Vice Chancellor has given instruction is that in the undergraduate board, hereafter, the Board of Studies will comprise of 3 industrial experts should be nominated by the chairperson of the board, and they will be incorporated in the board along with the board members based on the seniority, and then 3 industrial experts, 1 alumni, and plus 1 current student who's in the final year. So all these persons would comprise of the board and they would be taking care of the entire syllabus. So students' understanding of a particular subject and at his level how he expects or what he wants and whether this syllabus is very heavy or less, all that will be given by the students. And again, the industry, what they want, they would be able to tell us when 2-3 members are there in the board. And as academicians, the other members could contribute more on the academic knowledge of for that particular subject. So with that, actually, so the UG board hereafter, it would be constituted. And the very important aspect in this particular board is that only this board is not going to have this many members. Some more will also be added from our Vice Chancellor's side. So as a VC nominee or VC invited person, a person from this curriculum committee of Chancellor Vision 2030, there is a curriculum committee which they have made some 5 or 6 papers and they have actually got it ready. The curriculum has been already made and it has been ready to implement, especially the following papers: big data and data analytics, artificial intelligence, then robotic process automation, Internet of Things, creativity, design thinking and problem solving, quantum computing for Industry 5.0. For all these papers, the curriculum has been designed already and it is available ready. So the point is that, so the members have to incorporate these papers or these concepts in your own subjects. So the idea or the tool for all that thing will be given by, the assistance would be given by the curriculum committee who have designed these papers for us. So they will be there in all the committee, either one of them we can invite, and they will be sharing in where and all we can incorporate these papers. Not only that, even the faculty consent, suppose if there is a board on commerce, the commerce dean of the university would also be participating in that. So altogether, the output should be very much quality oriented, and it should be like matching with the needs of the industry. So that is how it has been decided that hereafter the Board of Studies will have many members, and for this time being, due to this COVID situation, now we are having a plan to have all boards of studies through online. And our Vice Chancellor has instructed us that probably in the first week or second week of June, there will be a video conferencing like this Zoom meeting or Google Meet or whatever it is available. Through that, our Vice Chancellor would be addressing all the boards of studies, chairperson alone, and he would be instructing like whatever we have discussed so far, that he would also insist the importance of revamping the entire curriculum according to the needs of the industry. So that he will be doing, after which getting acceptance from all the members and their available time, the chairperson of the concerned board, he would be inviting all the members, and then so they will be having a time, and earlier itself, before starting the meeting, all the curriculum could be sent, the model curriculum could be sent to the members, and they can work on it and they can update it. And after which all the members collectively, along with the chairperson, they can sit together through online meetings, and they could update the syllabus, and then they can forward it to the university along with the minutes of the meeting through online. Everything will be online. This is how we have planned, because it's a kind of a blessing in disguise that due to this situation now everybody is at home and everybody could connect to these kind of meetings, online meetings, and we will have enough time to go through the materials, get opinions from experts, and then standardize the syllabus, and then form a very good curriculum for the students. And they are going to be the future, of course, no needless to say about. So they will be helping. They will be helped in getting good employment later when they go out of the college. So that is how we have planned. So this is how our Vice Chancellor has also planned. This is one particular thing which we are currently working on very seriously. Yesterday also we had a meeting with the syllabus committee, and they are all ready with the groups of studies, chairpersons list, and the members, and even the industrial experts nominees. With some of the institutions, they have already given the list of industrial experts. So it is there. So we are actually constituting the board and we are confirming the board. So very soon the board, the members in the board and all of them would be intimated about their nomination. And then we will have the Board of Studies meeting. This is the current work which we are doing. And the second important aspect which our Vice Chancellor was addressing us is that, and there was a question also about that in the previous session to our madam, regarding the job-oriented courses, certificate courses. Our Vice Chancellor insists that to suit the needs of the industry, it is always better to have 2 more online certificate courses at the undergraduate level, based on the needs of the industry and based on the interests of the students, whichever the area in the above said titles, whichever I have read. So based on the titles, if the students are interested to learn a certificate course, then they will be given online certificate courses, and this is over and above the scholastic credits what they are going to get. That means the pass or fail in that particular job-oriented certificate course will not affect their degree. So that is how our Vice Chancellor was telling. So that means the students would be offering 2 online certificate courses in the 3 years of time, the 3 years span of time, and they will be going through those certificates, and they'll be learning and getting the certificates, but that will be added as an extra credit to the students. So this online course again, and another task which is assigned to us is that the credit transfer system should also be introduced from this academic year. That is what we are also working, the feasibility of giving this credit transfer. Suppose if a student who's interested to learn a particular subject inside his credits, 90 credits, inside this 90 credits, if he wants to learn it from another university or from university itself, a college student who's interested to learn from the university about his own subject, then probably that could also be available, or the choice should be made available to him, so that he can choose a particular paper from any other institution of his own interest. And that credit, what he earns from that particular institution, should be transferred to the his university or his college. So this is how we are also planning, and we are also working on that. So all these are all the new things which we are planning, and we are slowly working on it. And without all of your cooperation and support, nothing could be done. So I have understood very clearly that it is like a railway track. all has to go hand in hand. Nothing could be like individually, nobody can function. So that way, this is very, very important, that updation of the syllabus, introducing new online courses, and then job-oriented certificate courses. Everything needs all of your support. And so I take this opportunity to appeal to all of you listening to this webinar series. Kindly look into this particular aspects of curriculum updation, on curriculum validation. And another important aspect is also that after this Board of Studies meeting, there is going to be a standardization of the syllabus, otherwise validation of the syllabus. How it is going to be done is that all the stakeholders would be given a choice or a chance to look into the syllabus, the way which we have prepared in consultation with the dean and the curriculum committee of this Chancellor Vision 2030, and all the principals of the colleges and the Board of Studies chairperson, everybody, after preparing the syllabus, that once again that syllabus would be sent to, it would be circulated among other college principals, other all eminent educationists, so that we can get their opinion. And one more thing is also, it is going to be done here from here onwards, that in case if we need validation from any foreign universities, that is also possible. So we can get opinions, we can attach all the comments about our preparation of the syllabus, that could be attached, and that could be sent to our chairperson. He can attach everything and he can send it to the university. So after this, once again, the Dean's Committee will look into that. Once it is getting finalized, then it will be put in the Standing Committee on Academic Affairs. And earlier the system was like, once the Board of Studies syllabus is framed, immediately that will be given, or that will be put forth in the Standing Committee on Academic Affairs. So there was no in between, there isn't any structure or any body to look into the matters or the standardization of the syllabus. It was existing. And from this academic year onwards, to suit the needs, as I said, to align with the changes, what is it happening now, the fourth wave or fifth wave of industry, whatever it is happening. So to match ourselves, the skill set of the students, to match ourselves, we have to go with all these things. And university is expecting all your cooperation, and we are also ready to support you in all of your expectations or whatever you want from your side. The university is very much flexible in accepting your opinions, and then both of us together, university and colleges together, we can work towards the betterment of the society. So I put this appeal to all the faculty members listening here, all the Boards of Studies chairperson here, and all the management management persons and administrative person and the respective principals of the colleges. So, and here I stop. I think let us have more question session. And I wholeheartedly thank Ajit Kumar sir for having invited me to join in this beautiful webinar series. And I'm quite astonished. I used to say to sir that what he is doing is a really wonderful thing, because of course we are also, as professionals, we are also connected to various webinars, but it is all very subject oriented thing which we are actually listening or we are participating. We are giving lectures. All those things are happening only in the subjects. But then this is a common forum where all general matters are discussed and all academic leaders, when you talk, and as I was listening to madam, I really tell you that even I have got a lot of enlightenment about this industry 4.0 and 5.0. So I wholeheartedly thank every one of you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you very much, and expecting your patronage, continued patronage and support to the CDC. And thank you once again.
Thank you, madam. We will just go to the question answer session, madam.
Yeah, thank you.
I would
sir.
again request the participants to send their, type their questions with their name and the college name, so that we will be able to answer. The first question to madam is asked by Dr. Geeta Regupadi.
Yes,
Myself, Geeta Regupadi from Erode Arts and Science College. I have one doubt.
okay.
You told students only choose what and how to study. If students can participate in Board of Studies meeting and suggestions, provide the syllabus for the syllabus framework, their role. I think this is their. I think this is her question. Yes, madam. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So, so if I understand the question correctly, she's asking about the role of a student in the committee, in the board of studies.
Exactly.
Exactly, no, sir. Yeah.
Yes,
So the thing is that this is not going to be a new as far as I'm concerned, because as a board of studies chairperson myself, I know that there is already an alumni in our board of studies. So the person who's passed out, so he is already a member. The current final year student would be able to say the level of understanding and the student's pulse we could understand through the student, that person's presence. So that is what our vice chancellor, because it should be a complete 360-degree appraisal kind of a thing. Like everyone should be involved in the preparation of the syllabus, and the student should be given an opportunity what he wants to learn from that particular subject. So with that idea only he is given. And usually the student one who is going to be there in the board of studies will be nominated by the board of studies chairperson. Hence, there will be a flexibility in taking the student who could contribute something to the preparation of the syllabus only will be selected. So it is not going to be a kind of a waste. So definitely the student, one who is going to participate, will definitely contribute and will share his opinions on the paper which we are preparing. So
thank
that
you,
way,
madam.
yeah.
The next question is from Tilak Gaur. He is a professor from Bhagwat University.
Yes, sir.
University. I think it must be in Punjab.
Okay, sir.
He is asking, what is the solution for lack of education? I do not know.
Lack of education.
Lack of education. What is the solution for lack of education?
I couldn't get the question properly, sir. Lack of education here.
Maybe I think he means is why people are not educated in India. That could be the.
Yeah. So the education, what it means is, individually, if you ask someone like academicians like us, if we talk about education, the subject which gives us the knowledge or giving wisdom, that is education. And some of them might have a perspective that a person who is able to read, write the basic literacy, if they are having, then the person is educated. So even the perspective of education is viewed in different terms. I mean, the term itself is viewed in with different perspectives. So that way, what she means here is why people are not educated and what is the solution means. Here we have to understand that we have to create an awareness about the importance of education, otherwise the knowledge which helps us even now in this particular pandemic situation what we are facing, the knowledge which is very, very essential. So almost a very basic knowledge, and people were talking about the traditional knowledge, all those things people are sharing. So that means education in the sense like we have to create awareness among the people that the importance of education which will help us to enlighten ourselves or to give knowledge to the society or whatever it is they are interested, and they have to develop. So that is how I feel.
Okay, madam. Thank you, madam. Next is from Dr. B. Udaya Kumar from Sri Saraswati Tyagaraja College. He is the head of the department of MBA department.
Okay, sir.
What will be the future of teaching job? Because they all feel that once the online teaching comes,
yes,
what will happen to us? I think this was again discussed yesterday.
And even madam was sharing a yeah. So nothing will happen, sir. As far as I am concerned, even for the preparation of all these online courses, teachers are required. And how far you are going to attract the students, that is again with the teachers. So online will help us to reach further or to reach masses. But then a teacher is a teacher, one who cannot be replaced. There are several, once when there was an information era, when 2000, in the 2000 and all, people used to talk that teachers will not have role. And but even today we are having a role here, and we are all sitting and discussing like this, and we are expecting that there is going to be more waves. Like it is not going to stop, it is going lifelong education. Madam was addressing that lifelong education, it is going to be there. That means 4.0, 5.0, 6.0, maybe anything may come. So for all that, to prepare the students, teachers are essential and teachers are required. And a man's brain or a person's brain can never be replaced with any
Thank you, madam.
Yeah.
I hope madam has answered Dr. P. Tayakumar's answer. The next question is from Emmanuel David. He is from Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science, Coimbatore.
Yes.
Do you think that the triple major course will have a good future considering the liberal arts education? That's his first question. The second question is, do you all need a 4-year degree program? Do we also need a 4-year degree program? So the first question is, he's asking about the triple major courses, and the second question is about the 4-year degree program.
Yes, sir. As I have already mentioned that I don't have much knowledge on this triple subject because I told you already that I'm just 15 days old of the CDC. And the intricacies of having 3 subjects or having this 4-year degree course, all these are quite new to me. I have to agree that. So I'm not in a position to answer his questions right now.
Okay. I think we'll take it to the next session, and
Yeah,
we
please.
can ask even the Vice Chancellor when he comes.
Please, let me check. Yeah, definitely I can discuss with our Vice Chancellor, sir. And then maybe I can write to them, and even I know him. So probably
Yes.
I can talk to him. Yeah, definitely.
The next question is, madam, it's very interesting from one Dr. Pungode Muthusamy. I don't know from which college she is. Can you suggest the borders or boundaries of emotional attachment with this generation kids, ma'am, especially kids with emotions with mobile? Pungode.
Very interesting question, sir.
Very
Not directly related to CDC
Not
at all.
related to CDC and not related to us. It's a general question.
But then a wonderful question, sir. And today, as a mother of a 18-year-old boy, I could also feel sometimes they are all emotionally detached. They are not at all connected to the present existing world who you and I are experiencing in everyday life. But then when time is needed, or when there is a situation, we always say that, no, sir, people rise according to the occasion. So likewise, when there is an occasion, the children, they rise to the occasion. So when you say that this is going to be a very serious period like this, whatever we are having now, the COVID situation, see the knowledge, what they have, how they are sharing, how they are with us, all that definitely helps us to understand that though the emotional boundary, we could say that through the mobile phones, they are not getting connected to us. They are all the time spending their time in the mobile phones and all. But still, I feel that they are with us. They are with us. Physically, yeah, they are with us. Physically and mentally, they are with us.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is from San College, Valaya.
Correct. Yes.
Ma'am, how to motivate students for lifelong learning? That is from Ranganathan.
Yes, sir. So this is also a very interesting question, sir. I may be sounding little negative about our own fraternity, but then the fact what I'm sharing, this I used to say it in our academic college sessions also, whenever I go teach the teaching faculty who attend their refresher or orientation courses and all. Somewhere we have, as madam rightly started with this Gurukula education system. In those days, even the kings have sent their sons. I mean, the prince or the princesses, they have used to go to the guru's house and they have learned. They understood the importance of learning. So that was the base. But somewhere down the line, we have actually failed in creating or instilling interest among the students to understand the importance of education. So that is where I think somewhere in down the line, we have failed to attract our students to come to the classes, to listen to the teachers, to understand. And even in our university system, people used to say, my research supervisor was like that. He used to sit with me. And this thesis is from page 1 to last page. He was with me while I'm doing my research. So those kind of teachers were there. And even today, there are people. But by and large, somewhere we have failed, and we were not able to attract the youngsters to be with us. Maybe due to an exposure of this internet era or whatever, information era or whatever it is. I'm not, saying it is wrong, but then I'm just saying due to various intervention exposures, because of that, probably the students have lost the interest. So we have to motivate the students to come back to the class. So the way we teach, the way we explain things to the students, they should be attracted towards us. And no student should say that, madam, your class is not interesting, or madam, yours is very boring. So the space which we give to the students to give us the feedback, that will help us to understand the level of our own teaching, the level of our attraction towards the students with the subject. That will help us. So the
Thank you, ma'am.
space,
Thank you.
yeah, the space should be.
I think
given.
we'll just take 4 or 5 questions because there are around 50 questions.
Oh.
We'll just take 4 questions and we will send the email reply.
Definitely,
The next
sir,
question is, I think a lot of people are asking more and more questions. I think it has
Better,
gone
better,
up to
sir.
again 55.
No, no problem,
This is
sir.
from Dr. Gunavadi. She is from Saraswati College again. She just asked that, do you believe that virtual class is going to rule the education system? We can keep the answer very short, madam, so that we can answer.
Yeah. So definitely right now what we are experiencing is that this virtual classroom has an effect. We cannot say no. And it is easy nowadays. Now we are planning for the board of studies to be conducted through virtually. So that way it is good. I feel it is needed and it is very, very important at this particular scenario.
Thank you, madam. The next question is from Vasudevan Manoharan. He is the head department of microbiology, Erode Arts and Science, Erode.
Yes.
How much is it possible to evaluation of students, though only in grades, not without marks in the near future? He is asking whether we can just give grades instead of mark in the near future.
It is possible, sir. Even now, the CGPA average and all, we are only grading the students. Only when there is a percentage it is required, and that we are giving it in percentage. Otherwise, only the grading systems are there nowadays, and it is good on. So we are not saying that a person should be assessed or evaluated through marks alone. I completely agree with that.
There's an interesting question, I think, from Dr. Tamil Selvi. She has not written from which college. Our syllabus content should meet locally, globally, nationally.
Yes.
How can we teach globally while acting locally?
How can we teach globally?
Globally while teaching, while acting locally.
While acting locally. So the syllabus, the way in which we are framing the curriculum, that needs a lot of global inputs. That is what we are to match the skill set which is given to the global students at the same level. Our students should also be equipped with the same skill set. So for that, we need the syllabus to be updated. But then the students should be, given the skill set which would be helpful to get them employed in the present local market also. So that is how it should be prepared.
Thank you, madam. The next question is from Tanuja Thomas. She has not written the college name. How can students can access online teaching where net access not available properly?
I do agree with her, sir, as a social worker, basically. So, and she also belongs to our own fraternity. That is the reason she has raised this question.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, exactly, sir. I do understand. I do agree with her statement. Even 2 days back, there was a student who has given a complaint to our Vice Chancellor stating that our college is going on insisting on submission of assignments, attending virtual classes, all these things. And I am unable to connect because I don't have a smartphone. I don't have internet facility. But the college is insisting that I have to submit everything. And our Vice Chancellor asked me to intervene in this, and I have spoken to the principal also. We do agree, sir, and we are not forcing the student. But simply saying this as a negative factor, we cannot deny the opportunity of the student to getting knowledge from the global level. So in the sense, like simply every student nowadays, they are having a mobile phone with internet connection. We cannot say that probably the skill what is required, the technical aspects that the student should know, that probably the person may not be knowing. But then the fact that the person is not having, or that is agreeable to a certain extent. We can try to make them to go for this kind of a learning and all. It is needed nowadays.
Okay, ma'am. The next question is from Samuel. He is from Dr. SNS Rajalakshmi College. Will the university be offering online courses in the future?
Yeah, we are planning, sir. Our Vice Chancellor, sir, has already informed us that every department should come out with an online course from university departments I'm talking. So we are all planning for one subject course. through online, we are going to teach the students. That will be incorporated in the current curriculum itself. So we are planning online courses. Even other college students, affiliating institutions, the students who are interested to join this course also. And that is the reason I told you that credit transfer we are planning. So we are going to have all these things in the the near future.
I will just club both these questions together.
Yes.
One is from Dr. Gunavati. She is asking, can we add online courses in the curriculum itself? Then
Exactly.
how can we give the credits? This is the first question from Gunavati from STC. And Dr. D. Sweta, she is from Emerald Heights, Ooty. She is asking about, ma'am, you spoke extensively about the changes in syllabus and curriculum.
Exactly.
Do you think changes should be brought in the assessment method also?
Yeah.
That is giving the grades and things. More innovative ways to assess the skills rather than just assessing theoretically.
Yes.
That means what she means is only the writing method. I think that's what she is.
Yeah, exactly, sir. I do agree with her. Like I was talking about the formation of the syllabus, updation of the syllabus and everything. The assessment part of it, it doesn't come under our section, in the sense like CDC will not take care of the assessment section. But as a faculty associated with this university system, I do say that it is completely agreeable. And the online courses will be incorporated in the syllabus, and that will be assessed through credit will be taken into consideration. So it is like another program we usually have, probably you all might aware of this Swayam courses, 2 credit programs. This is over and above your own subjects credits, total credits. For example, if you have 90 credits, the Swayam course will be another 2 credit. So 90 plus 2, 92 credits so far you were having. And what we are talking right now is about online courses of our own subjects. So that means that will come under this 90 credits itself. Apart from that, people are, nowadays we are not going to stop only with Swayam. Even other courses, Coursera or whatever the students would like to take from other online courses, they could have, and that credit would also be added in this particular system. So that is how we are planning now. The credit transfer also we are planning.
I think we'll take this as a last question, ma'am, and then maybe
definitely.
we'll send it. This is from Dr. Pratish from Nehru Arts and Science College, Coimbatore.
Yes,
Madam, drastically changing courses and syllabus every year is causing confusion in students. How can it be solved, especially to get equivalent certificates for higher studies?
So this I think we are updating the syllabus every year, sir. For example, we are not totally revamping, or the basics we are not going to change, and nobody can change also. The fundamentals nobody can change. The fundamentals will be there, or based on the industrial needs or the expectations of the industry, the skill set which they require, based on which they have framed certain curriculum, the 4 or 5 papers they have planned already, which will be introduced in our own subject wherever it is possible. Only that will be taken into consideration as syllabus updation. It is not that we are going to change the entire syllabus, syllabus we are going to change. So it is as and when it is needed, or wherever it is required, that only will be changed. That is what actually we are planning.
Yes,
and definitely that will not create any confusion.
We'll just take 2 questions, madam. That is from the principals.
Yeah, please, I'm ready.
And I would again request all the participants that we will be sharing a feedback form in another minute, which will be posted here. Only the participants who have filled the feedback form will be getting the e-certificates. I'll just go to the question. This is from Michael Job College, the principal.
Yes.
I would like to know, as an affiliated institution, that in coming years, how much of our syllabus would constitute to blended learning, and when would this communication will come?
So we are currently working on that. So the blended learning will be taking place from this academic year onwards. Slowly we are in, and only the first semester or first year now we are in the stage to prepare the syllabus and everything, where we can incorporate whatever the subjects which I have already said. Wherever it is possible, we can incorporate. So only for the first year we are planning, and that is in the process. So we are not going to entirely change the entire system of syllabus. That we are not doing right now. So this will be taking place, and the communication will be sent in another 15 to 30 days of time. We are planning, and we will be sending the communication to all the affiliating colleges.
This is another, I think, interesting question. So I'll ask this.
Yes, sir, please.
Shelina from Assistant Professor of Adarsh Vidyalaya College for Women, Erode.
Okay, sir.
My question is the use of foundation A and B subjects like environmental subjects, studies, environmental studies, human resource for undergraduate students. She is putting a question mark and say, do you think, is it useful to the students?
See, this environmental studies is actually a Supreme Court ruling which says that all the students of undergraduation should be given a good knowledge about the protection of environment. It was a Supreme Court ruling based on which all the undergraduate courses, they are having this particular subject. Likewise, other courses also the same way. So these things are needed even today also it is required to protect our environment. So certain courses are very, very important to give knowledge to the students about their own society, their own environment. They have to learn about it. So this is required.
Ma'am, I'll take this as a last question. This is
Please.
from S.A. Mohammad Ali.
Yes.
He is the principal of CMS Academy of Management.
Okay.
What kind of support will be extended by Bardiyar University College Development Council to the affiliated colleges, the faculty members, to meet the new challenge of education 5.0?
Okay, so actually this we have already discussed in our Dean's meeting, and on coming 20th, there is going to be a faculty development program for online teaching. So Dr. Devi Madam, she is the one who's in the steering committee of Chancellor Vision 2030, and she will be organizing a series of programs to equip our own faculty to match the demands of this particular changes what's happening in our academic scenario right now. So she'll be doing that, and it is free. I mean, anyone can join in this particular webinar. It is on 20th. So from if you join, registration is free. So anybody can join, and they can equip and they can update their own knowledge on.
Actually, I thought I'd stop with this, but some interesting questions are coming. I think this is very interesting question from B. Prabhavati. She is the head of the Department of Management, Turf College Academy at Tirupur. Ma'am, as you said, if needed, the syllabus can be reviewed in foreign. How far the syllabus review from foreign countries will cope up with our educational system? I think she is talking about the foreign syllabus and something. How much?
No, it is based on the needs of our own industries only that we are concerned with. So we just want, probably you have your own friends who will be knowing about the content of your syllabus according to the Indian scenario. So they would be contributing and they would be validating your syllabus. Yes, this will suit. This is an additional what I could call it as, it is an additional confirmation that what we have framed is right. It is not that it is mandatory or they have to say that it is right. That way we are not putting it. It is actually like, it is an extra confirmation. That's all.
Last question, madam. I will stop with it.
Yeah, please.
And this is from Dr. Vasudevan, Vice Principal, VLB Janagimal College of Arts and Science.
Yes, sir.
He is asking how to improve academy-industry relationship, which is very essential to promote quality education.
Exactly.
How to incorporate in curriculum?
Yes, sir. That is why I said, like, even there was a sweeping statement made by the previous HRD minister in the previous time that only 20% of IITians are also only they are employable in the market. So IITians 20% only they are available for employment means. Just imagine our own arts and science colleges. So that was a sweeping statement made by the HRD minister previously. So that way we feel that there is a disconnect between our own education, academic system and the employability skills, what the industry they want. So to connect that only now we are all working or we are all striving very hard to achieve these technical skill set, what the students they want. So, and for that only the syllabus has been framed and that will be given to the Board of Studies and they will be incorporating. So For that only, again, I told you that the industrial experts, earlier it will be usually 1 or 2 persons, and many times they may not be in a position to take an off from their regular working system and attending our VOS and all. So now it is made compulsory that 3 industrial experts should be there. And again, that will be nominated by the chairperson himself or herself only. And these 3 experts will be helpful, and wherever it is possible, our own creativity could be applied there, whether the students could be sent at least weekly once, or wherever time permits, or wherever it is possible, first of all, engaging the students with the industry. So that way we can think of it. If you ask my own, so if you allow me 1 more minute, I can tell about my own course.
Sure.
So in social work, we have 3 days of classroom teaching and 3 days of field work practice. So that way we are sending our students to the industry. Right now, if you ask me, almost all the renowned industries in Coimbatore, we are placing our students for the field work curriculum. So that means our students are sent to the agencies, in the sense industries, and our students are trained there. So that is an edge over MBA HR or our own MSW HR programs. So that way, what I'm telling, wherever it is possible, we can connect with the industry, and then we can take the help. It is a mutual help. We are sending our own students, and they are also helping us, our students, to learn more. So that way, wherever it is possible, we can get the help from the industry also. So that way we can do that.
Thank you, madam.
I
I
answered.
would again request the participants to stay on. We will be just posting the feedback form. There will be 2 feedback forms, one for Sandhya madam and one for Lovelina madam. There will be 2 feedback forms. I request everyone to fill the feedback forms so that we will be able to give the e-certificate. I would also like to give 2 informations. Tomorrow the session will be handled by, the first session will be handled by Dr. A. Vimala, madam. She is the professor and head of Department of Extension and Career Guidance, Bardiyar University. So she will be talking more on placements, careers, teaching and everything. So I would request again all of you to attend the session. The second session will be handled by Dr. Deena Dayalan. He is the principal of Gandhi College of Arts and Science at Erode. So there will be again 2 sessions. The sessions will start at 11 a.m. I request all the members to also inform your friends in the academics to join the session. Now I would request the patron of our association, Mr. Khalil, to say a few words, and afterwards Mr. Elangumaran, the secretary of Turf College of Arts and Science, Tirupur, will propose the vote of thanks. Over to Khalil, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ajit. I'm delighted to hear from Ms. Lavina, the chairperson of the CDC, that she has taken over the CDC in last 15 days, and she is with an open mind to hear from us and to learn things better.
Yes.
I hope that in the days to come, we will have a better choice of having a good service from the university.
Definitely.
We hope that we all will have a better interaction with the university hereafter at least. Thank you. Thank you very
Definitely,
much.
sir. Definitely, you are assured of that, sir.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would now request Mr. Elangumaran, the secretary of Turf College of Arts and Science, Tirupur, to propose the vote of thanks for this program. Over to Elangumaran, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Really, it is a beautiful day, and I would like to thank our association for giving me a wonderful opportunity here to propose the vote of thanks. And I would like to thank our speaker, Dr. Lovelina ma'am, professor and head of the Department of Social Work and Dean in charge of College Development Council, giving a very good address on the roles and responsibilities of CDC in promoting higher education. And also, I'm very much impressed in the way how ma'am patiently and with smile answering all the questions raised by our participants. I impressed very much, ma'am, and thank you very much for spending your valuable time. And also, I would like to thank our association for making use of this during this lockdown time. It is a wonderful series of webinar. Uh, I'm getting a good feedback from our staffs, and today also I see Prabhavati of our college, he raised a question and how much they involved. So as like that, near about 300 something participants today, they enjoyed this session. Thank you very much for the president. Thank you, president of this association, Secretary Sedupati sir, and also whoever involved in making these sessions a wonderful and fruitful one. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. I would request all the participants, again, we are sharing the feedback form. I request everyone to fill the feedback form, which is available in the Google feedback. Request everyone to fill the form so that e-certificates can be issued. Thank you, everyone, and we will all meet tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity.